In late May 2012, a routine garbage pickup in Montreal led to a gruesome discovery. Inside a discarded suitcase was a human torso. Word of the macabre find spread instantly. By the next day, investigators had identified the victim as 33-year-old Jun Lin, an international student at Concordia University who had vanished from his apartment earlier that week. Police quickly realized this was no ordinary homicide. A disturbing video, titled "One Lunatic, One Ice Pick," had gone viral online, showing Jun Lin being brutally stabbed and dismembered. At a news briefing, Montreal police spokesman Ian Lafreniere issued a national alert. "We want to apprehend the suspect to ensure that he appears before the court for the horrible crime that he committed." The hunt for Luka Rocco Magnotta, a name just beginning to grip Canada's attention, was on. Luka Rocco Magnotta was born Eric Clinton Newman in small-town Ontario, the son of a migrant family. His father later described his childhood as intense and isolated, with homeschooled years and virtually no friends of any kind. As an adult, he changed his name and reinvented himself online as a model and actor, but his life was anything but glamorous. In 2005, he was convicted of impersonation and multiple counts of fraud, exploiting a mentally disabled woman's credit. At that hearing, a judge noted Magnotta suffered from significant psychiatric issues. In 2010, at age 27, Magnotta first emerged on investigators' radar for all the wrong reasons. He began uploading homemade snuff videos depicting the torture and killing of small animals, often set to loud music. The first known clip, "One Boy, Two Kittens," shows two kittens suffocated in a plastic bag. Other clips featured him drowning a cat and even feeding one to a python. The footage was so graphic that it drew outrage from animal rights activists worldwide. A Facebook group sprang up to find the kitten vacuumer, offering a reward to identify him. In January 2011, members of that online community finally zeroed in on Magnotta's identity, then warned authorities. After committing acts of animal cruelty, he might pose a threat to humans. When confronted by journalists about the kitten videos, Magnotta only grew more defiant and ominous. In a 2010 email to a British reporter, he wrote, "Well, I have to say goodbye for now, but don't worry. This time, however, the victims won't be small animals." At the time, it sounded like a ghastly prank, but by mid-2012, that threat would prove terrifyingly real. By spring 2012, Magnotta was living in Montreal under his new name. On the night of May 24th, 2012, Jun Lin visited Magnotta's apartment in the Côte des Neiges neighborhood, captured on surveillance camera entering the building with him. The following day, May 25th, an 11-minute snuff film titled "One Lunatic, One Ice Pick" surfaced on an obscure website. It shows a bound and naked man, later identified as Lin, being brutally stabbed again and again with what appeared to be an ice pick, a screwdriver, and a kitchen knife, then hacked apart. The video is too graphic to show here, but it was immediately undeniable. Jun Lin was dead, and Magnotta had not only filmed the killing, but posted it online. Newspapers later noted the soundtrack of the tape was "True Faith" by New Order, the same eerie music used in the opening of American Psycho. For several days, Lin's disappearance perplexed friends. He was last heard from on the evening of May 24th, then failed to show up for work the next day. Worried roommates discovered he was missing on May 27th and formally reported it to police on May 29th. Then, horrifyingly, on that very day, a custodian at Magnotta's apartment building made the gruesome find. A janitor found a suitcase on the curb behind the building. Inside, a human torso. Simultaneously, two more packages containing human body parts were discovered in Ottawa. The first, stained with blood, held afoot and was delivered to the Conservative Party headquarters. The second, found later that afternoon at a postal facility, contained a hand addressed to the Liberal Party. Police scrambled to connect the evidence: the missing student, the dismembered body parts, and a chilling video circulating online. Soon, DNA confirmed that all the remains belonged to Jun Lin. Within hours, the case became international. By May 30th, Interpol had added Magnotta to its fugitive list and issued a global red notice for his arrest. Montreal police spokesman Ian Lafreniere appealed to the public for help. Reports soon placed Magnotta on the move. On May 26th, he had taken a flight out of Montreal to Europe. Witnesses spotted him partying in Paris, even dining in a French nightclub with a male companion. As the hunt intensified, by June, first authorities quietly confirmed the video was real and the killing had occurred in Magnotta's apartment. Investigators raced to track him across continents. A reward was offered for information, and the manhunt was on every continent. In the days that followed, each new clue seemed more bizarre. By June 5th, a severed hand and foot had been discovered at 2 Vancouver elementary schools, linked to packages sent by Magnotta. Photographs of Magnotta were circulated at airports. Through it all, rumors swirled online that the killer was a vainglorious internet celebrity craving attention. The chase culminated on June 4th, 2012. On the streets of Berlin, Luka Magnotta had arrived in Germany via Paris and was lying low. He was spotted working at a Europcar car rental office and later staking out a cafe where he spent hours surfing the web. Unbeknownst to him, a Turkish cafe employee named Kadir Anlayisali had recognized Magnotta's face from news photos floating online. On that Monday afternoon, Kadir approached an Interpol agent sitting in traffic and pointed into the cafe. Berlin police burst in just as Magnotta was showing off his own story to strangers. He had been Googling news about himself. Officers asked him for ID. At first, he attempted several fake names. Then, cornered by the evidence, Magnotta finally blurted out what the police had already figured. At first, he tried to tell several different names, but at last he said, "Okay, you got me." He even repeated it himself. "I am the one," Magnotta told them. He was arrested on the spot. Magnotta reportedly did not resist. According to German officials, he waived extradition back to Canada almost immediately. On June 18th, under heavy security, he was flown back to Montreal. Media helicopters buzzed overhead as he emerged from the plane in full shackles, stepping into a police convoy. He returned in a military plane, one news report described. Magnotta was taken into protective custody at Mirabel Airport, Montreal, his hands and feet shackled during the flight. It was the end of the most sensational manhunt Canada had ever seen. Two years later, Magnotta stood trial in a Montreal courtroom. He faced 5 charges. First-degree murder of Jun Lin, committing an indignity to a corpse, broadcasting a violent act, mailing obscene materials, the human remains, and criminally harassing the Prime Minister. The defense admitted Magnotta killed Lin, but argued he was not criminally responsible due to severe mental illness. Prosecutors countered that Magnotta had meticulously planned the murder for months. Luka Magnotta was convicted of all charges. The judge, Guy Cornoyer, pronounced a sentence automatically: life in prison for first-degree murder. By Canadian law, he must serve at least 25 years before being eligible for parole. On top of that, under the doctrine of exceptional circumstances, the judge imposed the maximum on all remaining charges, amounting to another 19 years. In other words, Magnotta will likely spend the rest of his life behind bars. At sentencing, the focus turned to the victim's family. Jun Lin's 68-year-old father, Diran Lin, delivered a devastating victim impact statement through an interpreter. He choked up as he spoke of its son's future, lost forever.